To start our journey in Ruby, the first window you see is the Prepare window. This tab is where you can find all your files that you've imported into Ruby. Next, we can go into the Design tab of Ruby. This tab is where you can actually make your designs or edit designs you've imported using the many features Ruby has, like the rectangle tools, all the shape tools, the line tools, etc. Next, we can go into the Prepare tab. This is where you will place your design on the laser, and this is going to be the location where the laser is going to make your design. There's a pointer in the Prepare tab that corresponds to the laser's position. You'll use that to place your design in the correct spot, so you will cut in the correct spot and not over nothing. You want to make sure you're cutting over some material. The last tab is the Produce tab. This tab is for producing. This tab is where the Q is. It's once you press push to laser or Q to laser in the Prepare tab, all your designs will be put into the Produce tab, and you can switch between them, but the only way to start it is on the machine. To start, we're going to make a test cut and a test engrave. To do that, let's press the plus option in the Manage tab. This will give us a new document or a new workspace to work with. Next, we want to get the square tool or the rectangle tool and draw a square. The square can be any size, but usually I like
1/2 inch by 1/2 inch.
Once you have your desired square, you want to duplicate it so you have 2 squares. Now, one of these squares needs to have a red outline. So the square we started with does have a red outline, meaning this is the square we're going to use to cut, as red is the color for cutting, as decided by us it's just an arbitrary color we decided. Once you've duplicated the square, you want to make the second square into a black filled square. This square will be used for test engraving. Black is the color we use for engraving. You want to make sure these squares have some distance, but not too much, because we don't want to take too much space on our piece that we're cutting and engraving on. You also can use the Fit Design tool to make sure the workspace fits your 2 small squares, which will make it easier in the Prepare tab. Now let's go into the Prepare tab. To start, we're first going to go into Material and choose the material we will be using. For us, we're going to use the test cut material, as that is what we would do when we're deciding what power to use for cutting and engraving for a material we have never used before.
So if we go into the material itself, we can see the engrave quality and the cut quality. So engrave quality and the cut quality have 2 settings, power and speed. These are the 2 main settings you need to concern yourself with. The more power you put in for the percentage, the more powerful the laser is. The more speed you put in for the laser, the faster the laser travels. So if you have a high power and low speed, that means the laser is going to burn through a lot of wood, but it will take long. If you have a lot of power and faster speed, it will engrave much less, since it doesn't have enough time to keep that high power on the wood. Same goes for low power, low speed, and low power, high speed. So if I was cutting through, let's say, a 1/4 inch piece of MDF, I would want very high power, so 90 to 95%, and very low speed, so 0.2, 0.15% speed. We also have other settings on the power, besides power and speed, like the source. We want to use CO2 if we're cutting wood, acrylic. If we're cutting metal, we use fiber. The difference between the 2 is basically the wavelengths or the frequency used in the laser, the max frequency, as fiber lasers can have a higher max frequency than CO2. There's also passes, the number of passes we can make. Usually 1 is good. Multiple passes don't really do anything, as when you pass once, you're going to be cutting over a new type of material when you pass again. And the other more important setting to look at is the process gas. Make sure air assist is always on. This just prevents the fire from the laser from being there all the time, from being there persistently so as to mitigate the smoke that attacks the lens, makes the lens dirty, or fogs up the mirror.
Next, we want to move our laser pointer, not dragging it, but rather using the arrow keys on the laser itself. Dragging it will just give an error. Once you have it in the correct position, then you want to align your drawing with the laser, maybe on the corner of your drawing, and it will click on automatically. Once you have that, you can press push to laser, and it will go in the queue in the produce tab, and then you can hit play on the laser. Next, let's go back and go to our designs. So let's start with the GT SVG file. This is already prepared, so you can press create job, and all you do is the same procedure. Align it with the laser and use the values you got from the test cut to define the material's power and speed. We also have some materials already listed, but you just want to make sure with the test cut. Same goes for your engraving, which let's pull up now after we push to laser our design for GT. So now let's go back into the Manage tab, get our guide. We can hit Create Job again because it's already prepared. There's nothing to edit. Oh, one thing to note. Sometimes the font you chose in Inkscape may not appear in Ruby. This is because Ruby has a limited number of fonts available than Inkscape. So if this happens, your font will default to Arial. So you can change it if you want to, but just know that. Now next, let's go back into materials, choose the one we use, put in the values, align with the laser, hit push to laser. And once you do that, you can also hit play for that one, and you should have an engraved piece and a cut piece that you can show to your PI.